Boba is not cooperating today, so in his place, we have a duck. I'd planned on making a video about autistic masking and work, and I was going to call it Fake It Till You Break, because fake it till you make it, brilliant. But after reading up on the history of that, I ended up down a rabbit hole which culminated in me spending the entire morning listening to a free audiobook of The Secret read by Microsoft Sam. So now you have to suffer too. First, if you're new here, I'm Mika and this is normally Boba. And I make monthly videos which are both lefty and autistic-y. So if you're looking for ways to support the channel, then all I can say is this is your first time on YouTube. To the links in the description with you. This is the capitalist propaganda of The Secret.
In the 1800s, new understandings of electricity, other cultures and beliefs, new scientific discoveries, and the like spurred a new wave of ideologies among North American and European Christians. Among these was new thought credited in large part to one Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, who was a mesmerist faith healer. Mesmerists believed in a chi-like natural energy and a Reiki-like faith healing, popularized by German doctor Franz Mesmer. This new wave of New Thought faith healers did not see themselves as mystics or anything so ridiculous. They were people of science. Early New Thought proponents included Mary Baker Eddy, the founder of Christian Science, and Helena Blavatsky, a Ukrainian philosopher and renowned theosophist, who first put the words Law of Attraction into print in her book of esoteric philosophy, Isis Unveiled, in 1877. New theories of electromagnetism and bioelectromagnetism had set the intellectual world abuzz. Early New Thought seems to be a good faith attempt to merge together new discoveries of science and culture with pre-existing Christian conceptions, including a scientific explanation as to why faith healing works, and the law of attraction was pivotal to this. Key concepts upholding the law of attraction were: 1. Everything, including thoughts, is energy which vibrates at its own frequency. 2. Like attracts like. Positive thought frequencies will attract other energies vibrating at a positive frequency. 3. Thoughts become things. The things you focus on you will attract, as thoughts have creative power. And so if you desire good health, you must live your life as if you will always have good health. You keep your thoughts on your ongoing good health, and inevitably good health will be attracted to you. This idea, originally used to promote good health, soon became used to promote wealth, success, and happiness in several early bestsellers on the law of attraction. In the 19th and early 20th century, the language used tended to be more God-centered. However, over the years, this shifted to the universe, to appeal to a more secular hippie. In another universe, these beliefs might have stayed where they belonged, on the fringes of Christian and New Age circles. In this universe, however,
basically the message of The Secret is the message that I've been trying to share with the world on my show for the past 21 years.
Your thoughts create your life, and so you have to think positive thoughts all the time. You have to force yourself to think positive thoughts.
They made us watch The Secret. I don't know if you remember that. It's like you manifest the things you want in your life.
Of course, Rhonda Byrne.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, I mean, positively and negative. I mean, you attract. Not just what you fear. You attract what you feel, what you are, what you attract. What's on your mind? Yeah,
it's like the law of physics. I don't know how anybody can disagree with that. Ask any physicist; they'll tell you that it's true.
Total believer. Yeah, I believe in manifestation. I believe in
putting a rocket of desire out into the universe, and you get it when you believe it. You get it when you believe you have it, and that's the key.
I often get inspiration from books, and one book that resonates with me all the time is this book right here. It's called The Secret. It is the most powerful book outside of the Bible that I have ever read in my life.
Wait, I gotta do the cover my back bit. Not every single word of The Secret is harmful. And I'm certainly not saying that everyone who was involved in it or believes in it or supports it is knowingly engaging in capitalist anti-leftist propaganda. Like with most of these things, you've got grains of truth and useful tidbits throughout. For example, there is ample valid evidence to show that stress can have a direct negative impact on your physical health through causing inflammation. And so it goes without saying that being happy and calm is good for your health. And there certainly are behaviours and activities which you can do to increase your likelihood of being happy and calm. Music, spending time in nature or a park, hanging out with cute animals. When they let you. All the cliches. They can and do lift your spirits, at least temporarily, so it's probably good to do them. But doing things that make you feel good will make you feel good isn't the biggest breakthrough anyone's ever had, is it? The same goes for all the advice to visualize and focus on the things that you desire. Indeed, if you think about the things that you want to do, you are more likely to do them than if you don't. Agreed. Give me my book deal. Yeah, I think that's all the nice things I had to say. The Secret is a self-help book written by Rhonda Byrne, who's an Australian TV writer and producer. The book, which was based on her earlier film of the same name, has sold over 35 million copies and has been translated into 50 languages. The book and the film together has grossed our Rhonda over $300 million in sales. This success is in no small part thanks to the endorsement of Oprah Winfrey and a list of celebrities as long as your arm. I'm going to be a bit glib in this video, but that's just to keep things chill. But I have very personal reasons for making this video. This isn't just me dunking on a silly idea. I'm not auditioning for Rational Atheist YouTube. The mentalities that stem from this stuff are far and wide. I'd never heard of any of these people or their books, but I lived for years immersed in this way of thinking. So yeah, jokes, but also this is very bad and dodgy stuff. Rhonda starts her book by telling us all about her research. She conjures images of torch-lit tunnels, dusty leather-bound tomes. See, the Da Vinci Code was hot stuff circa 2006, and you get definite Da Vinci bandwagon vibes from the marketing. I had been given a glimpse of a great secret, the secret to life. The glimpse came in a 100-year-old book. I began tracing the secret back through history. I couldn't believe all the people who knew this. They were the greatest people in history. Plato, Shakespeare, Newton, Edison, Einstein, Lady Gaga, Will Smith, Russell Brand. That ancient and secret truth is the law of attraction. Much secret, most ancient. Now, the law of attraction is like the literal textbook definition of pseudoscience. It would take a whole video to debunk the scientific claims made in The Secret. It's a regular gish gallop of scientisms.
She's invoking quantum physics to people who don't know a lot about quantum physics.
To make the idea sound less preposterous, Byrne cloaks it in irrelevant but snazzy-sounding scientific terms. Without identifying the observer effect, the idea from physics that observing a process alters its outcome, she leans on its philosophical implications. She also summons up quantum entanglement, the little-understood theory that at the subatomic level, particles influence each other's behavior in ways that aren't yet fully clear to scientists. Neither theory applies to weight loss, credit card bills, or for that matter, anything else above the scale of atoms.
But hey, Confidence is key. You're gonna fake it till you make it, and our Rhonda Byrne is certainly embodying the energy of an expert.
It takes a special sort of arrogance for a layperson to proclaim that he or she is so brilliant as to have discovered a heretofore unknown law of the universe simply by inspiration.
But Rhonda only needs believe she's an expert in order to be one. That's the secret. But there is a method to it.
Step 1. Ask. You get to choose what you want, but you also must get clear about what you want. If you're not clear, then the law of attraction cannot bring you what you want. Now that you know, you can have, be, or do anything, and there are no limits. What do you want? Step 2. Believe. You must believe that you have received. You must know that what you want is yours the moment you ask. You must have complete and utter faith in the moment you ask, and believe and know you already have it in the unseen. The entire universe shifts to bring it into the seen. Step 3. Receive. Ask once, believe you have received, and all you have to do to receive is feel good. When you are feeling good, you are on the frequency of receiving. So get yourself on the feel good frequency and you will receive.
So feel good now.
You might be forgiven for thinking that this is all just a bit of an elaborate metaphor in order to make a self-help book seem more appealing. But no, the law of attraction is presented as any other law of nature.
Oh, it's a real belief that our thoughts can shape, control, and direct this powerful force of the universe, that it sets in motion energies that go out into the atmosphere. Yeah, that's for sure a real thing.
Underlying this method is the assumption that, on one hand, feeling good will attract good things and feeling bad will attract bad things. And on the other, that every individual is responsible for their own thoughts. Now, if you're listening to that and you're thinking, wow, victim blame much? Yeah, much. Much of that.
Everything that surrounds you right now in your life, including the things you're complaining about, you've attracted. You're going to immediately say, I didn't attract the car accident, I didn't particularly attract the debt, and I'm here to be a little bit in your face and to say, yes, you did attract it. This is one of the hardest concepts to get, but once you've accepted it, it's life transforming.
Often when people first hear this part of The Secret, they recall events in history where masses of lives were lost, and they find it incomprehensible that so many people could have attracted themselves to the event. By the law of attraction, they had to be on the same frequency as the event. So if only the victims of slavery, genocide, natural disaster, famine and war had just had a more sunny disposition, turned that frown upside down. If I found myself in a war, I'd just simply not let it get to me. Most people watching this probably know all about toxic positivity. If you search for a bullet list of signs of toxic positivity, 95% of them are presented as good advice by The Secret. And you will find bullet lists because the harm of toxic positivity is being quite widely studied right now. For example, in 2020, this narrative review of 29 studies on the effects of positive psychology on domestic abuse victims found that
overall, the literature suggests that misdirected or overgeneralized positivity exacerbates harm and abuse. An optimistic bias can put victims in danger. Empathy, hope, acceptance, and resilience are associated with refraining to leave abusive relationships. And forgiveness increases the likelihood of further transgressions. We therefore argue that scholars and practitioners need demonstrate care in promoting positivity, since it can be detrimental within a toxic context.
How the ideology presented in The Secret intersects with abuse is something that I want to do a whole video on, as I do have quite a lot of personal experience about that, but yeah, that's going to be a hard video to write. I'm not anti-positivity. If you can find light in your darkest moments, that's wonderful. If you can meet challenges with a positive mindset, then very cool. Keep that up. But that is by no means enough for The Secret. The universe is very finicky apparently, and a bit of a dick. The Secret takes a kind of sinister turn, rather a few sinister turns. This turning. So say if you desire good health, right? Not only must you believe that you can never get sick, you must banish all thoughts of sickness from your mind. You must live your life as if sickness does not exist. And if one is to do that, then under no circumstances must one listen to sick people complaining about their illnesses. One of the things that people do often when they have an illness is talk about it all the time. If you are feeling a little unwell, don't talk about it, unless you want more of it. And you are also inviting illness if you are listening to people talking about their illness. As you listen, you are giving all your thoughts and focus to illness. And when you give all your thoughts to something, you are asking for it. And you are certainly not helping them. You are adding energy to their illness. If you really want to help that person, change the conversation to good things if you can, or be on your way. If you desire to lose weight, not only must you believe that you are already your target weight, meaning that you buy clothes in that size and things like that, but you must also refuse to believe that food can make you gain weight. And in order to do this, well, make it your intention to look for, admire, and inwardly praise people with your idea of perfect weight bodies. Seek them out. If you see people who are overweight, do not observe them. Merely observing people that are somehow counted to your desires risks all your hard work at the positive thinking, let alone actually listening to them. This takes toxic positivity to a whole new level. Not only is it in that person's interest to always think positively, but to actively remove from their lives and their experience people who risk that positivity merely by existing. You remember how it's in the interest of capital to atomise society and to weaken the bonds between support structures and the people who need them. The Secret came out in 2006, and you may remember capitalism having a bit of a hiccup a few years later. Slight setback. Author of Bright-Sided, How the Relentless Promotion of Positive Thinking Has Undermined America, Barbara Ehrenreich points out that not only was positive thinking used to promote people getting mortgages they couldn't afford, but it was then wielded by corporation in order to excuse layoffs and cutbacks. You're not being fired, you're being given the opportunity to expand your resume. I think it was probably the adoption by the corporate world which really spurred the rise of these positivity-related psychologies that we saw since the release of The Secret. I mean, think about how often you see positive attitude listed on job adverts. It has also been noted that MLMs, that's multi-level marketing and pyramid schemes, adopt a toxic positivity approach towards the people they scam. If you're not succeeding in making money, you must simply not have the right attitude. But The Secret just straight up says this in the first chapter.
Why do you think that 1% of the population earns around 96% of all the money that's being earned? Do you think that's an accident? It's designed that way. They understand something. They understand the secret, and now you are being introduced to the secret.
They even suggest that this knowledge has been actively hidden from humanity by someone, but I can't tell if that's just them keeping with the Da Vinci Code aesthetic or if they're really engaging in some like far-right conspiracy banter. But wait, there's more. The Secret very much focuses on a consumeristic view of success. It does talk about things like health, but the overall vibe is very much unironically,
you own everything.
It talks an awful lot about desires such as, I want a new car, and very little about desires such as, I want to not be the victim of systemic ableism. And the kind of language used throughout is very QVC-ish. Attracting the perfect weight is the same as placing an order with the catalogue of the universe. You look through the catalogue, choose the perfect weight, place your order, and then it is delivered to you.
It's like having the universe as your catalog. You flip through it and say, I'd like to have this experience, and I'd like to have that product, and I'd like to have a person like that. It's really that easy.
The Secret also spends a good chunk of time explaining why you probably shouldn't care that you're getting into piles of debt. Again, this came out in 2006. If you're to believe that you're wealthy in order to manifest wealth, it is advised that you simply live as though you are wealthy. Just stop being poor.
If the words "I can't afford it" have passed your lips, your power to change that is now. Change it with "I can afford that. I can buy that." Make it your intention that you are going to look at everything you like and say to yourself, "I can afford that."
Most people have a goal of getting out of debt. That will keep you in debt forever. Whatever you're thinking about, you will attract. If you're thinking debt, you're attracting debt. Set up an automatic debt repayment program and then start to focus on prosperity.
As if the problem is people manually paying their debt. And still, it gets worse. As you focus on the negative events of the world, you not only add to them, but you bring more negative things into your own life at the same time.
The anti-war movement creates more war. The anti-drug movement has actually created more drugs. Because we're focusing on what we don't want. Drugs.
Anti-racism causes more racism. Anti-transphobia causes more transphobia. Anti-fascism causes... Not only must you never listen to suffering people, but you must also never fight against the causes of their suffering. And also, don't watch the news, because merely knowing about all the negative things will bring more of them into existence. When I discovered The Secret, I made a decision that I would not watch the news or read newspapers anymore, because it did not make me feel good. The news services and the newspapers are not in any way to blame for broadcasting bad news. As a global community, we are responsible for it. Even trying to do stuff is a no-go, by the way. If you are trying, then all you will attract is more trying. This includes planning and strategizing, and if you're wondering what room that leaves for any kind of activism at all, well, Now, The Secret doesn't exactly say, never try to improve the world. Actually, it does. Don't try, do, there is no try. Thanks, Yoda. Now, The Secret doesn't exactly say, never improve the world. Rather, the danger is it tells you to do so in the most ineffective way possible. Instead of being anti-war, be pro-peace. Just assume that peace is a given, and that's that. Instead of being anti-racism, simply believe that racism just does not exist. You don't even see colour anyway. Instead of being anti-ableism and austerity, merely be pro-disabled people. But disabled, that's actually a negative term, so be pro-specially abled people. Autism is such a negative term, isn't it? Why don't you think of yourself as having a superpower? That way nothing could ever harm you or hold you back, and I won't have to spend time caring or worrying about you. Yeah! So, logically, right, if you're on a cliff and you think, oh, I don't want to fall off that cliff, and so like you don't go near the edge, what'll actually happen is the universe will just yeet you right off. Because you focused on what you didn't want, you silly goose. The big problem with this kind of radical idealism is there's a lot of people and one Earth, which is where all the things happen. Now we do all conjure our own bespoke versions of reality based on our own perceptions and experiences, but also things exist and it's there and we agree. I don't want to get into the philosophy of how we know what exists because there's so much of it. But the point is, The Secret teaches that there is no limits. Every single person can desire whatever they want, and provided they manifest correctly, they will get it. Inevitably. It's a law of nature.
It works every time, with every person.
But like, what if nobody desires to be the ones who have to make all the stuff that everyone's cosmic ordering? They point out that not everyone will want the same stuff, which is obvious, but stuff doesn't just materialise from the fucking universe, Bob. It's made by people. Even super futuristic conceptions of production and distribution aren't 100% people free. There will always need to be people who either really want to do that job or who, I guess, aren't manifesting properly. So exploitation of those that upper society have deemed to be expendable would be necessary in order for the whole system to function. That sounds familiar. The fact that they use people won't want the same things as their aha, see, we have thought things through moment is especially hilarious, given that this is the main problem with the entire concept. 8 billion people all manifesting different things and none of them manifesting being the ones to make it. Sounds sustainable. To buy into the law of attraction is to reject the idea that material conditions matter at all. And on the face of it, it's astonishing that so many ideas stemming from this are just so widely accepted. On the face of it. But actually, if you feel powerless to change your material conditions, it might well be easier to think that you only need to gain control over yourself and your thoughts, and then your material conditions will change around you. Gaining control over your thoughts does sound like a much smaller task than gaining power over your material environment. And it is framed as a this or that kind of situation. They literally say at one point, do you want to believe that you have no control at all, or do you want to be like us? Embedded within the law of attraction and fundamental to it is the idea that we're all in control of our thoughts. That's not to say that thoughts won't pop in unexpectedly, but that you have the power to switch them to better ones. It's no surprise really that law of attraction literature barely mentions psychiatric conditions or neurodivergencies which make controlling your own thoughts just an everyday struggle not to have a breakdown, let alone to manifest all your worldly desires. But as I said in my Identity and Alienation series, our brains do kind of restructure themselves based on our experience. And yes, this does mean that theoretically we can train ourselves into new ways of thinking, and this could obviously have a beneficial effect on our lives. But in order to do that, the material conditions must be in place to allow it, because the whole time they're having an effect on your brain too, and by extension, your thoughts. But of course, maintaining a positive mindset, ignoring bills, expecting random paychecks in the mail for no reason, living your #best life. This is all pretty easy if you're already well off. Most of the pages of The Secret are dedicated to anecdotal success stories. There's the guy whose business was going downhill and then he did The Secret and he remembered suddenly that he'd already written a book and so he published it. There was the woman who put an offer down on her dream home which was for sale, and then she did The Secret and her offer got accepted. Magic. Oh, then there's the incredible tale of Rhonda's sister Glenda.
She wanted to move to the United States and work with me in our US office. Glenda knew The Secret very well, and so she was doing all the right things. But months were passing by and she was still in Australia. Glenda looked at her actions and realized that she was not acting as if she was receiving. So she began to take powerful actions.
Those powerful actions, she moved. She just packed her things and went. Glenda just sitting in a living room in Australia wondering why the USA isn't just materialising around her. Throughout law of attraction literature, you read a lot of sentences that go like, have you ever noticed how those who talk about being happy and successful usually are? And those who talk always about being miserable usually are. Yeah, and people who talk about being French usually are. Magic. Even Rhonda's origin story, she was going through a hard time. She got really inspired by a book she read, and so then she got her production team to make a film about it. Honestly, if you're out there whining away about the cost of living or whatever, why not simply have your production team knock up a bestseller? Apart from a couple, including the very sad story of Kathy Goodman, who claimed to have healed her breast cancer using The Secret, only to later die of it a few years after the book was published, most of the anecdotal stories in The Secret seem to just be rich people remembering that they're rich. But that is exactly how garbage like The Secret gets disseminated so successfully. The book, The Secret, is a mess. It's just a transcript of the film with a few extra paragraphs wedged in. The layout and graphic design is atrocious and there's spelling and grammar mistakes all the way through it. And the film looks like an instructional guide CD-ROM for the new carpet cleaner your mum bought off the door-to-door salesperson in 1998. The contributors are just a bunch of motivational speakers, self-help authors, a few quacky science guys, there's a feng shui expert. Most of them don't even have Wikipedia pages. They don't do anything except make money off of selling law of attraction type stuff. But the people who immediately bought into The Secret, actors, musicians, internet stars, Oprah Winfrey, not only are these people exceptionally influential, but they are the exact people to whom the law of attraction really appeals. Kinda seems like it works for them. Wealthy and successful people never want to believe that they were lucky, that they were in the right place at the right time, that they exploited the right people, that they popped out of the correct womb. They want to believe that they made all they have, that they manifested into existence their success, not that it comes at the expense of others. If you're a basically good person who finds yourself at the top of the social hierarchy, it's better for you to believe that anyone could make it to where you are, rather than understanding that you being there means that others cannot be. Because then you might want to use your influence to undermine that hierarchy, and that simply would not do. I know I'm not the first person to point out that the self-help industry upholds individualism and therefore neoliberal capitalism, but I hope I've added a few extra layers to the discussion and exposed the absolutely shoddy-ass garbage roots of the certain branch of positivity-focused self-help. There's stuff to be said about how it all kind of supports the idea that selfishness is good, a la Ayn Rand, but then I'd have to read Rand and I think I've punished my brain enough for 1 month. I am going to do more on positivity psychology and the law of attraction though, focusing more specifically on certain consequences of it, but I think that for now, yeah, that'll do. If you enjoyed this video, you can help by manifesting me up a few thousand subs. Ta! Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.